Nutmeg feels like a forgettable spice. A pinch grated into holiday pie. Nothing more. But this same tiny spice was once so valuable that Europeans traded away an entire American island just to control it. That island was called Manhattan. To protect that fortune, one European trading company decided sharing wasn't enough. They wanted the entire supply of nutmeg to themselves, no matter the cost. That decision led to one of the darkest chapters in colonial history. A small island population violently wiped out, just so one company could control a single spice. How did a handful of tiny islands trigger a genocide, a monopoly enforced by mutilated seeds, and a trade that handed over Manhattan? This is the history of nutmeg. Nutmeg comes from the seed of a single tree species, native only to the Banda Islands, a cluster of volcanic specks smaller than most cities. By the 1500s, nutmeg and its lace-like sibling spice, mace, were selling in Europe for prices that rivaled gold, prescribed by physicians as medicine against everything from the plague to a broken heart. Whoever controlled those few square miles of islands controlled the entire world's supply. There was no competition because there was nowhere else to grow it. But that's not the strangest part. The Portuguese arrived first, then the English, each trying to strike deals with local Bandanese leaders for exclusive access to the trade. But it was the Dutch East India Company that decided a deal wasn't enough. They wanted the entire supply, not shared, not negotiated, but owned outright. In 1621, the company sent Governor-General Jan Pieterszoon Cohen to settle the matter permanently. What happened next is one of the darkest chapters in the entire spice trade. Cohen's forces attacked the islands, determined to remove any obstacle to total Dutch control. Of an estimated 15,000 Bandanese islanders, the overwhelming majority were killed, starved, or forcibly removed within a matter of months. Survivors were enslaved on the very plantations that had once been their own land. The Dutch then imported enslaved and indentured laborers from elsewhere to run the nutmeg plantations under strict company control. The monopoly they wanted, they now had, built on the near-total destruction of the people who had lived there for generations. What happened next changed everything. For decades, the Dutch guarded their nutmeg monopoly obsessively, even dipping unplanted seeds in lime to make sure no living tree could ever take root anywhere else. But one tiny Banda island called Run had slipped into English hands instead. In 1667, as European powers redrew their colonial map, the Dutch and English struck a trade. England kept a small North American colony called New Amsterdam. The Dutch kept the island of Run. New Amsterdam was renamed New York. Today, it's one of the most valuable pieces of land on Earth. At the time, the Dutch were confident they'd gotten the better deal. The Dutch nutmeg monopoly held for well over a century, until a French administrator named Pierre Poivre smuggled out live seedlings and planted them in French colonial territories, breaking the island's stranglehold on supply for good. Today, nutmeg grows across the Caribbean, Africa, and beyond. Cheap, common, sold in tiny jars nobody thinks twice about. But for a few centuries, this one spice was worth an island trade, a monopoly enforced by lime-dipped seeds, and a tragedy most people who grate it onto their pie have never once heard about.